Welcome to the Hoops Cap. We're going to talk through Bella's experience being the boots on the ground for the Hoops Cap pod and the Hoops capital of the world. Coming up. Welcome into the Hoops Cap pod, sponsored by and powered by Big East Energy. We're here with Bella Tomanio, my co-host, and she's back. She's back on campus. She's not, traversing the world, essentially covering the UConn women. Wanted to bring you in, Bella. Like, honestly, you did an amazing job. Super excited for you that you were able to kind of experience this. And I wanted to take it, this is basically like a mini pod. So I wanted to take it like segment by segment to talk about the tournament reflections, essentially, right? And we're going to take it one segment at a time. So the first one was easy, right? You're in Storrs. You literally can walk to your work and kind of see what's going on. What was that first couple games like in the energy at Storrs, and just talk about that?
The energy at Storrs was incredible. I think that I've been to a decent amount of games in my first full year, first full basketball season at UConn, and I've been to a lot of men's games, which I think typically are sometimes do get a little bit louder, a little bit rowdier. And these first two games for the women were the loudest I've heard gamble, and I was at UConn Marquette for the men, and I was at St. John's UConn this year, Baylor UConn, and I still think, especially that SDSU game, that was electric. People were just just as loud as they could be. Packed house, especially when Paige took over in that first quarter. I mean, it was an insane atmosphere.
Yeah, love it. As far as the thinking about that second round game, because I talked to you about this like after the game, which was because you mentioned that before. Do you think the part of the reason why it was so loud and the loudest you think you've ever heard it is because they have such a transcendent player in Paige, knowing that was likely her last game there, and it was. And there's something about like when you get to see someone that is special. Not that an Alex Caravan isn't, but like he doesn't reach the levels of Paige as far as like national significance and what's what she means to the women's game. So I'm just curious, like, do you think that had something to do with it?
1,000%. I think this year, not only did the fans want it terribly bad for Paige, but so did the team. And I think that really, sparked a fire under them. And I think that the fans, we already knew that they were traveling, 10,000 plus miles, traveling across state country lines to see Paige play. But yeah, I think I looked up into the crowd and I saw Paige's mom. And you could kind of tell, a lot of people were coming up to her saying like, wow, this is it. And it was a lot of emotions. She was emotional. I can't exactly, it was, a couple weeks ago now, but I can't exactly remember if it was before the game, at what point during the game she was emotional. But yeah, she was, literally taking pictures on her iPhone. And obviously, there's 1,000 pictures of Paige after the game, but, she wanted to capture those last moments, like the proud parent that she is and has every right to be. So it was emotional for everybody involved. And that definitely sparked some extra crowd noise and some extra spark in the team for sure.
Sure. My other question is, have we gotten Sarah Strong's family to come over to the Hoops Cap and not watch Locked On anymore, so that they know that we're here, and talk about that, about how meeting her family and kind of how amazing the Strongs are.
Very nice people, incredibly nice people. Basically, I was just standing, near the court, and all of a sudden I hear lock or I hear I hear my name, and I look over and they are kind of, I got into a 5-minute conversation with them about, Sarah, about them listening to the pod. I believe I I spread the message well enough to let them know that we're over here now, and we're doing the Hoops Cap pod. So I'm hoping they're listening. They were just incredible people, and you can tell that that whole family is just in awe of Sarah. They love her, and what's not to love? They just kind of really talked about how just she's just so focused. Sarah is focused. She obviously, we can tell she's not super big in the media. She doesn't really love that stuff. Maybe that'll change in the next couple of years. But yeah, they just really said like UConn was it for her. They maybe were thinking, oh, what else could we do? Because they're from North Carolina,
Yeah,
so they
they're
were
close to me.
yeah, they were kinda saying they know your barber, Mark, they know your barber.
They know Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were
Can I
just
tell you? Can I stop you there for 1 second? The funniest comment, and I if I find it, I'll. It makes me laugh every time I think about it. I was telling that story about how they said that they know my barber,
Mhm.
and someone on YouTube goes the only thing that's surprising about that story is that you still have a barber.
That's awesome, that's incredible.
It's a great comment. I was like, dude, like I have to. That's a great roast. Like I was just like, you know what? Even us guys who are hanging on to the what little hair we have left, we want to make sure it's not unruly. Anyway, continue.
So, barber, though, you gotta, shapes
Yeah,
up
I
the
gotta trim up the beard. Yeah, it's true.
the barber does it all, so it's not just for the hair on the head, I
Not just
guess.
for the hair that's no longer there.
Yeah, but yeah, no, they were incredible people. I'm really hoping that they came over here. I'll talk about, when we get to like the Sweet 16 talk, I'll talk about um her parents a little bit more, but yeah,
Please, yeah.
just people, just really good people. And it was a pleasure getting to talk to them, and I was honored that they listened to the pod and know us, and it's cool to be in that company.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna talk about that the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, as Bella jumped on a plane along with other cohorts of her staff, of those that working for UConn broadcasting department, and we're gonna talk about that coming up after the break. All right, welcome back to the Hoops Cat Pod. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, my co-host a couple times a week here, Bella Tomanio of the Hoops Capital of the World Substack, and obviously the podcast that we're doing now. All right, so to walk me through this experience. So they win the first two games, obviously not surprising. They get to the Sweet 16 because they're 31st consecutive. So you guys get on, you're going out to Spokane. Is it Spokane or Spokane?
Spokane.
Okay, Spokane. And what was that journey like? And then talk about the games and everything that went in it.
It was nothing short of incredible. Truly, I can't thank, we went through the UConn radio station, WHUS Storrs. They sent us, and they, we got on a flight. What was it? 2-3 days after the conclusion of the second round game. It was incredible. I mean, Spokane was it's an interesting little city. Not a ton to do, I'll be completely honest. We did a little bit of the river walk. Kind of, I don't wanna say boring, but a little mundane.
Mhm.
We had a great time. I made some really good friendships, on the trip, which was awesome. Met a lot of really cool people, a lot of other media outlets that I got to talk to, was just in the company of, like, Holly Rowe, Rebecca Lobo, and Ryan Rucco, like, you
Yeah.
know, that's I got to pretty much, not spend time with them, but it's just cool to even, share a presence with them. Um, it was awesome. We got to sit courtside for Spokane, and we were right there with all the action. You know what I'm saying? Like I was under the rim while they were getting ready. Just like a couple. Sometimes the ball would kind of roll over to me, and I'd pass it over to Ice Brady or something. It's just cool little moments like that they're not like they're just things that I'll never forget. I think that was the biggest thing. So very grateful for the opportunity, but the basketball, let's just say, did not disappoint. I mean, Oklahoma scared me a little bit. I think I talked about it in our
Mhm.
live show. Just I don't know. I don't know. I just think that was my. I think out of all the games that we played, that was the most scared I've been. Just because I was worried that we were overlooking, USC with Juju out. But things went well. Paige dropped a 40 ball, and
Mhm.
that was incredible. And then you go on to the next game against USC, and another 34-point performance, or 31 points in
31. Yep.
the USC game. So we saw Paige. I got to see Paige Bueckers live in action play some of her best basketball, which I will not forget because the atmosphere was mostly UConn, which I think most people expected. But yeah, it was really really amazing.
Let me ask you a question about that before we get into the Final Four. Which game do you feel like the team was a little more like relaxed afterwards? Was it the Oklahoma or obviously if you beat USC, you go to the Final Four? But do you feel like because you mentioned that you felt like you were a little nervous that they were going to overlook USC? Was there any sense of that, or was it just that was just more your feeling?
That was just kind of like a little superstition kind of thing. I
Okay.
think in sports, I'm sure you can kind of resonate with this. S- Sometimes, you think when kind of put into the best perspective is when we played Tennessee, we played terribly, but then you also look to your schedule like, maybe they kind of played bad because they're more so prepping for that South Carolina game a week or two later. I just think it's like sometimes, you get worried that they're locked in, that they're not locked into the moment. And I don't think it was anything that they did at all. I think it was just more so me. But to kind of think of, to your exact question about were they more relaxed or what was the kind of the vibe? They were they were honestly pretty not tight, but just pretty like, you know, really extra focused after the Oklahoma game. After the USC game, I was able to go in the locker room and interview some things. I hope you guys, saw some content over on the Hoopscap TikTok. But
Oh yeah.
I was able to interview, and they were definitely a lot more chill after the USC game. Azzi Fudd commented on my UConn tie. She said she loved it,
I did
and
see that.
yeah, so I got definitely some better interviews after the USC game. I just think it was more of like, okay, we're done in this region. We can at least enjoy it a little bit now. We have a little more time to focus on not necessarily celebrating because they hadn't reached the finish line yet, but I think they'd gotten to the Final Four, so they were a little bit more chillaxed.
I agree with that. I think the interesting part about the games was USC gave them the toughest game.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like of all the games before we get to the Final Four, I think that partly was because the women in particular were probably like, man, this could have been our toughest. Like over if Juju was here,
Mhm.
that almost felt like their national championship because when Kiki Arifan like started off and she was just making everything, I think she made her first 4 shots and then she struggled the rest of the way. But I was like, man, this team is really going to be in for it today. But then they just kind of pulled it together. They got it all the way up to 19 at one point, but then it got dropped down to 4, and then AZ showed up. So like, yeah, that one was an interesting one for me. Like did you have the same feeling that as calling the game that this was potentially their toughest of all?
I mean, definitely, especially after looking at it, I would say that was the really closest margin, oddly enough, after playing, two of the best teams in the country in the Final Four. But I think that I don't know. I guess I definitely see what you're saying. I don't know. Just for some reason, I just wasn't as nervous for this game. I think that yes, USC came out strong, but the way I looked at it was I just didn't think they were going to be able to go the distance. So I just
Fair enough.
I wasn't as worried because I just felt like if they had Juju, things would have been different. But yeah, I just didn't think they were going to be able to go all 4 quarters. So yes, it was a little bit nerve wracking, but it wasn't as scary to me.
Okay. All right. Well, we take a quick break and we return. Let's get last segment of the program is let's talk about the Final Four national title game and how sweet it was for Bella Tamano. We're back on the Hoops Cat Pod, powered by Big East Energy. Let me ask you this: did you ever think in your wildest years that you would ever think about calling a game that UConn was going to win a national championship and then being in the locker room to interview players on the TikTok on the Hoops Cap TikTok, as like you did?
Never in a million years. I came to UConn, this past fall as a transfer, and I obviously wanted to get involved in any way I could, but I didn't think it would be on such big of a scale, especially this fast. And getting to, back in December, call a bowl game was, I thought, the peak of things. I got to interview Mark D'Amelio. And honestly, Mark, if you would ask me in February if UConn was even going to win the national championship, like February 1st, especially after the Tennessee game, let's be honest, I would have been
Yep.
like, maybe I'll get to go to like the Sweet 16, Elite 8, but after that, I don't think it's really going to go anywhere. But it happened, and it was something out of, a dream. It was really a dream, and to get to do that at 19 years old was, I mean, it's the peak, man. That's the peak. It only goes down from here. No, but just just
No,
just
you'll be
just
fine.
just jokes. But yeah, it was incredible. Especially we got our own booth for the Final Four, or for the national championship game. We were, center court. We didn't get down to courtside. That's
It's
a lot
okay.
of ESPN. I mean, they own
Of course.
everything, so they had, half the freaking seats down there. But yeah, it was in the Tampa Bay Lightning arena, so
Mhm.
it was a maze. It was a really very very nice arena, but yeah, everything down to just eating a media meal I didn't take for granted. Like grabbing a free diet Coke out of the fridge wasn't like it
It's
was a
pretty cool,
moment.
right?
Yeah, it was a moment that I'm just never gonna. I take nothing out of this trip for granted. It was incredible. And for them to for the confetti to fall at the end and for it to be blue and white, you can't draw it up any better.
Honestly, I think it's a great place to end it. You did an amazing job. Please go visit the TikTok that Bella runs for us at the Hoops Cat Pod. It's her baby. It may have our name on it, but she runs it. She owns the majority of it. So please go check it out. She's got some amazing content on there, and I know that's going to continue. Bella, we're proud of you. You did an amazing job. Thank you so much. Remember to subscribe to the Hoops Cat Pod and everything else at Big East Energy. Go subscribe to our Substack if you want some of the Big East Energy merch. It's at bigeastenergy.com. All right, that's another show today. Go Huskies.